Today we are going to continue on with our Pop Art Candy project. So by now you've gotten everything traced out and you've decided on which one you're doing. I have several to choose from. The Warhead ones here. We've got Jolly Rancher, regular Skittles, Trolley Sour, Bright Crawlers, and Sour Skittles to choose from. Each one of these I'll have posted on your Google Classroom so you can look at them. You can either copy them down on your own paper that you should have cut out and traced over, or you can look on your Chromebook and look off of there. I'll try to have some up on the Promethean board as well. Each one of these is going to show you where we need our solid colors and where we need our dots. So X, anywhere there's an X is going to be solid. Anywhere there's an O, that whole thing is going to be dots. Solid white stays white, and so does any black outlining. If you notice, it's already black outlined in some of the solids in there. So today we're going to need our tracing, our paper that tells us exactly where everything is supposed to go. We're going to need some markers, hopefully several different kinds. These are going to put in our solid colors. We'll have some bigger ones too. And then at each table is going to be our dot markers with 30 different colors. These are liquid. I want you to be careful with them, and they have to be primed. You're also going to need a ruler and a black ink pen. So what I want you to do first is take a look where there is anything that is a thick black outline, a thicker black outline like the backs of these letters, and you're going to go along and outline every little bit of that. Now, I had forgotten this O part down there. You need to be very careful when you're tracing, and that's why I'm going to be giving you red pens. So hopefully you can see where you traced a little bit better. But you're going to pay close attention and try to trace everything. If you mess up and forget something, that is okay. You can come back and hand draw it. So as you notice, some of the shades aren't the exact same shades, but we're going to do our best to match them as best as possible with all of our colors. I am trying to provide you guys with several different shades. It doesn't have to be exact, which is kind of the fun of pop art. A lot of pop art isn't typical colors for a particular item. You know, like for instance, Andy Warhol had a zebra painting that was orange and reds and pinks. Well, zebras are obviously not orange or red and pink. So we're gonna do our best to match the colors as possible. If not, that's okay. It's just fun, funky colors. I tried to pick some things that have a lot of colors in. So once you get all of this black, this thicker black outline with your marker, you're going to take your black ink pen and you're gonna outline all of the other things. Now notice that some of the very tiny details I didn't add. They aren't necessary. You can outline them if you want to. You don't have to. Notice I didn't put this part in, naturally and artificially flavored. I didn't put that in. I didn't make these super, super detailed. Just kind of the idea that they're there. I added, you know, survive the sour, savor the sweet, because that's kind of a cool logo. And of course, the main logo. Once you're done outlining all of your fine line stuff with your black pen, you're gonna come back in and you're gonna start adding your solid colors first. So notice that I put an X on all the solid colors. So use this as your reference. The apple's been X'd, the watermelon, the blue raspberry. So anywhere, you know, down here, and I'm not gonna make you guys sit here and watch me color all these, but you're just going to color each and every one of those in first. Now this one is sort of a skin tone color, and I'll go through, and even if we have to use colored pencil on that, because it is really hard to find markers in our stash of markers that is that color, you have to sort of order a special set of markers that have the skin tone markers. So we'll see if we can't use colored pencil on that part if you're doing the warheads, but the rest of these don't have any skin tone colors. They're just all funky, fun colors. So, and you know what? If you want to go back and do like a pink, that might work if you don't want to use a skin tone. So once we have gone through, and notice I made these gray, our little spots here, these around the cloud is gray. So fill all that in, fill in as much of your solid color as you possibly can. And here is where the fun part comes in, or at least I think it's fun. You're gonna take your dot markers and they unscrew, so you need to be very careful, don't lose the cap, okay? The cap is gonna be essential to make sure it doesn't dry out. And you're going to need to take a piece of paper. I'll provide paper in the middle of your table for everyone to use. And you guys need to prime them if they haven't been used yet, okay? So this one obviously has been used because I was experimenting with it. But priming them, you shake it up really well and then just gently dot it down. Now, when you actually go to use it, you are not going to press down at all because we want tiny little dots. So you're gonna take your ruler and you're gonna hold this straight up and down, okay? Straight up and down, and go along the edge of the ruler. Just touching. And it's gonna make these small dots. Kind of fun. So if you notice, I started here, this is all yellow, and what you're gonna do is, I've just finished these, I'm gonna move just above those, and I decided to do mine at an angle to make them kind of fun. And I'm not pressing, because pressing is gonna make giant dots. We want tiny dots. And then move up just above it again, do it again. And if you run into something where you're about to run into a different color, just go around it. Skip that, keep going all the way to the edge. I might need to put another one in here. Just like so. Once again, up above that. Putting one over there, skipping over my blue raspberry. And I'm just touching. I am just barely touching the paper. I'm not pressing down at all because I'm not trying to make big, giant ones. That will waste our ink because these are specialty markers. We don't want to waste our ink. We just want to use it the way it is intended. Just right next to each other. And we'll end up doing this all the way across because this whole background is yellow. Oops. I think I pressed down a little too hard on that part. Oh, and I messed up because down here you notice it goes. Sometimes I gotta stop and look back. Okay, see, right there too. It's gotta go here. Okay, so we'll end up with these dots all the way across with our little dot markers. See, I pressed down too hard. You gotta really focus on trying to be light-handed, skipping over stuff. And the good news is if you do get it backwards and say you accidentally dot a spot that is supposed to be solid, you just go back in and color it solid right over top of the dots. So it won't matter. And you just keep going that way. Straight up and down, just barely touching, not even pushing, and it will come out. But I think pop dot art is really fun. You do kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing, but it's kind of relaxing. Just making tiny little dots all the way across, just like that. So I keep going. I'd keep using my ruler, move up, move up, move up, move up all the way, and keeping it at that same angle as much as I possibly can. It's okay if it's not absolutely perfect, you know, as long as I see you trying. So once we're done with the color, I'm not gonna make you guys show you all the way up. We're gonna screw that cap back on, put it right in the box. One of the next colors I'm moving on to, so I'm gonna take a look. So plum, I think that's maybe too much of a purple. Test it out. This is what it's gonna look like before it's primed, just like that. I'm gonna shake it. Let me take a second. There it comes. Okay, and I'm gonna look. I think that's pretty close to this color here. Oh, look at that. They do go on the end. Nice. Nice to know. So, clips on the end. I'm going to do, again, okay, move up. No, it's hard. This one's a little harder to do. Ah, almost got on the white. Sometimes if you get to the point where you're like getting in really small, you might just get in there and dot it as much as you can. Because we've got some fine little details on there. There we go. Okay, and if you notice on this paper, the Warheads logo itself is going to be just a solid color. And so then I'd move on to my blue one over here. Violet blue. Let's see how that one turns out. We're discovering what the colors look like together, guys. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna say, let's see if a different blue doesn't match more. That's a darker blue. It's very dark in comparison to the other blue. So what else do we have? We have this blue. Prussian blue. That might be the one. I notice I shook it. That's also kind of dark. Let's try another one. It's the joy of, there we go. There's a blue blue. Just a solid standard blue. That's the one. What do you guys think? I think that's the one. Let's make that happen. Okay, so once again, just little tiny dots. You're not pressing. So I'm going to come up here and just make these tiny little dots. Notice I'm barely touching the paper. I'm just gonna kind of put them in a line. I don't really need the ruler for this. I feel like I can do it without it. Just like so. Down here, of course, it shows that this is solid. Up here, we're gonna do the same thing. We'll probably just put them in when they're not in this bigger background, just like we did with these. We're just gonna dot them in. So it looks like as if we have kind of a fade here. This is almost like a pinkish color. Let me see what I have here. And I don't know that I have that exact color, so we may use this magenta and see how that goes just for the bottom part of the Warheads. Just like this. Yeah, I think that's as close as we're getting, and that's okay. Like I said, you just want to use as close as you can. So I'm going to start off by putting tiny dots just in the bottom because it fades. It fades up. Just like so. Just little dots. Notice I'm just adding a small layer here. Okay, looks like then we might move up to a very light orange. Try this, see how that color looks. We've also got salmon. Let's figure it out. Let's see. We're gonna think about what's gonna look best together, color-wise. That I feel like is pretty close. Let's see how the orange looks. Oh yeah, I am going with the salmon for sure. So put that back on, unscrew the top on the salmon, put it on the end, And then we start adding our next little layer of dots in order to create that fade. Just notice how I am really just barely touching. Barely. Just little tiny. You're gonna have to learn how to be gentle. Sometimes when we're making things, you have to be gentle because otherwise you overwhelm it with too much color. And then of course this top part is our yellow again. I'm gonna come back in and fill the rest of this in. I'm trying to make the dots separate as best I can. Just like this. Oops. I'm doing this as quickly as I can so you guys don't have to watch me do this forever. So by the time it's all said and done, and of course I will have a finished project for you guys to take a look at. By the time it's all said and done, this will be a fun, bright, interesting, visually interesting project that I think you guys will really be proud of making.